Hello, everyone. Again, Yahtzee Crowshaw here on the Legend of Zelda: Breaking of the Wind, and I'm joined by Marty.
Hello.
And here's Jay as well.
Hello.
And this week, because Marty's been playing so much Zelda, whatever it is, I haven't
Echoes
played
of
it.
Wisdom.
Well, whatever it is, yeah, I haven't been started on it yet because I'm playing that fucking Metaphor Fantasia all week.
Nice.
We thought we'd talk about characters in games who've been relegated to the sidelines up till now who deserve their own game.
Yeah.
Zelda finally got one. And as
Yeah,
I've said before,
finally.
that'll finally justify all those elderly relatives who think that Link is Zelda when they see you playing it.
You could point them to this game or that terrible CDI game and be like, look, that's right.
I'd rather point them
God.
here, honestly.
We can point them here. We'll point them here to this discussion. Hello, Gammy and Pop-Up.
So in thinking about candidates for this, it struck me how many of the obvious sidekick characters have already had their own games. I mean, I'm a big fan of second fiddles. Probably comes from being a younger brother, but Luigi, he's had his own games. He's had multiple of his own games. He had a whole year at one point.
Remember the year of Luigi?
What a year that was.
Luigi?
It was like 2015 or something. It was like, I think it was before the Switch, and Nintendo didn't have anything going on, and they were like, we got to do something. They're like, fuck it, it's the year of Luigi.
What games came out?
I think Luigi's Mansion 2 came out that year, and there was a Luigi-centric version of New Super Mario Brothers came out.
Yeah. Also, this year is the year of Shadow the Hedgehog. I don't know how you guys have been celebrating, but it's been great for me so far.
Oh, Christ.
So,
I think every Mario canon character had their own game. Princess Peach had one. Toads had one.
Yeah, Nintendo specifically does this a lot. They you mentioned Toad, Yoshi, Wario.
Waluigi, noteworthy absence there. Although there is a fan game called Psycho Waluigi that tries to redress that balance.
Oh no!
And it's actually surprisingly well put together if you look into it.
What kind of a game is it?
It's a platformer where you're Waluigi with psychic powers.
Okay.
Tails the Fox had his own game, although it's kind of relegated to the dustbin of history now.
Yeah, Shadow has his own game.
Yes, he had his very, very quickly he had his own game.
Don't like thinking about that Shadow game.
Yeah.
So I had to think about it, and I've hit upon a sidekick character who's a very strident presence in their respective franchise, and who really deserves to have their own game.
Who's that?
Are you ready?
I am.
Otacon.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
because he is basically Solid Snake's hetero husband by the end of the franchise, but he's never had his own game.
Yeah,
and I'm attracted to the idea of a game where you play as the support character. I made a whole game in my dev diary project called Casey Joint, where you play as the hacker who helps the hero as they're prowling through the environment.
I like that.
Doing little mini games to open doors for them and shut off cameras and stuff. And that would be Otacon's game, I think.
Would you where would you place it? Would this be after all the adventures of Metal Gear Solid 4? Would you try to slide it in there, some random shit him and Snake were getting into during their years where they're kind of off the grid and living in a bad helicopter?
I want to fill in the background between MGS1 and MGS2 because at MGS2. It starts with Solid Snake and Otacon, who've become a bro team up to do off the grid assignments to sort of undermine Metal Gears throughout the world. I want to know how that started. Because by the time Metal Gear Solid 2 starts, it sounds like business as usual for the pair of them. They've been doing this for a while.
Do you reckon it would be a drastic change? In these spin-off games, do you want to see drastic changes in gameplay, or do you want to see just an exploration of the narrative of those characters?
I think it's a good excuse for a drastic change in gameplay.
Agreed.
Yeah, it feels like if you're just gonna palette swap, what's the point? Which is why I'm kind of glad Echoes of Wisdom plays very differently than Zelda, just traditional Zelda, just by virtue of the fact that you kind of have to use a bunch of the shit you collect in the environment to solve puzzles and combat scenarios and everything.
Yeah,
I mean, all the Mario spin-offs sort of spin off to explore completely different gameplay styles.
Yeah, Luigi's Mansion, Toad Treasure Trackers, even the Peach game from earlier this year. Yeah, completely agree.
That's what I want to see.
I listed a couple of them, and just one of them was a Metal Gear Solid one. And while I feel like that series, like in particular, can kind of have a lot of directions you can go, I was always thinking of a prequel to MGS3 starring the boss. Her life in the fiction is pretty interesting from starting her Cobra Cobra unit. They fought in the Battle of Normandy. She was the first woman in space.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of dumb, actually. Like this one woman is just this magnet for all of mid 20th century history, and also getting shat on the whole time in a slightly cartoonishly way.
And just has to sacrifice herself because there's no one else around to do it. Yeah, lived a rough life. Yeah, I want to see her how she met that horse. She has a cool horse. I want to see how she met the horse.
I'd want to see it be incredibly over the top, like Bayonetta. Like just doing all these historical events, just stupidly over the top.
Forrest Gumping her way through history.
Yeah.
But while beating the shit out of everyone, hurt her horse. Metal Gear as a whole seems like a series that's kind of built for that. And I mean, we already kind of got that with Revengeance, where it was obviously Raiden was already the main character of 2, but it felt like they were like, well, people always wanted to play as a cyborg ninja, but he's dead, so let's just have a Raiden game.
I was thinking that as I was playing through Metal Gear Solid 1. Boy, this would be so much better if I was a cyborg ninja.
Yeah,
and not like, just a dude who's really good at being a dude.
Yeah. You know what? Because dudes who are good at being a dude.
Because what I like about Otacon, and with a lot of second fiddle characters, is that because the main fiddle character is the one who's like the face of the thing and has to be like the politician who isn't allowed to dislike anything lest they alienate fans of that thing. The second fiddle is the one who's actually allowed to have emotions and feelings about things.
Yeah, you get that with sidekicks in books and movies and TV shows as well. Like they kind of they don't have to be like the engine for the audience avatar or for the plot. Like they could just be there to kind of supply.
You can make a whole game mechanic out of Otacon crying his eyes out like a big girl.
And I bet, I bet Kojima would create a mechanic out of that.
Maybe his eyes fill up with tears and make things harder to see every now and again. It's like a status ailment.
Surprised Kojima hasn't made a crying minigame yet.
Yeah,
seems like it's right up his street.
Keyword yet. He showed off the new photo mode in Death Stranding 2, where all the characters like pose like models. Weird man. What a legend, a genuine legend.
He already did that in MGS4. If you point the camera at the Beauty and the Beast ladies while they're walking up to you in like the end of their boss fight. Oh, sorry.
It's in Beyond Good and Evil as well.
Yeah.
And Paige waves at if you point the camera at Paige, he waves at the camera.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good. Jay, did you have any?
Yeah, I've got a few. One of them, speaking of Beyond Good and Evil, I just like you guys, and why I feel like I needed to ask, I'm like, let's shake up the mechanics. And a lot of these are just also characters that I want to see more explorations of. Paige from Beyond Good and Evil, I'd love like a mechanic based, maybe more of a racing, hovercraft focused experience with Paige from Beyond Good and Evil.
Flying with your ability to break wind.
Exactly right. Da Vinci specifically from Ass in Creeds. I'd love
play as Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, I'd love to play as Da Vinci making crazy contraptions and stuff, kind of like Kerbal Space Program, but
right.
Yeah,
in Italy.
We're building shit.
You just play the Incredible Machine or something.
Yeah. What else? Hornet is getting a game if Silksong comes out.
Yeah, in theory, if Silksong ever comes out, indie games have been pretty good with this. We even have like Shovel Knight released a bunch of expansions and stuff where you got to play as a bunch of the different knights, and in theory, we'll be playing as Hornet someday.
I'm hoping the mechanics are a lot different than, as much as I would love just Hollow Knight 2. I think there's a lot interesting you could do with Hornet's moveset, and I'm looking forward to actually getting that. And my last one for me, I guess, would be, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Isrin, the sidekick from Okami.
The
little guy. I'd love a painting where you just paint smut.
Yeah,
like
you just paint smut
because he loves his smut. So just a mini game where you play as that little cockroach dude, and you just paint smut.
Just horn it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
The game needs to be a little more horn doggy.
Yeah.
I had a bunch that came to mind, and mostly it was like me looking at a list of my favorite games and being like, what element of this would I want to see somewhere else? Chrono Trigger, one of my favorite games of all time. Obviously, all 6 characters, main playable characters, get their own side quests at the end of the game, which are really cool. One of the reasons I love the game is because they all get these like really deep character centric side quests. And probably my favorite side quest is where you need to plant a forest. But it's going to take centuries to do it. And so you go to the past and you leave your robo friend in the past, and he's like, I will plant and till this forest for 600
so
years.
You want to remake Rusty's Retirement, but in the Chrono Trigger universe?
In the Chrono Trigger universe, but with the pathos of Robo making friends with all the humans in those 600 years and needing to be with them as they all die. So he experiences like the saddest 600 years. And he's like, I know I'm going to meet my buddies in the future and I'll have completed the mission, but all the friends I meet along the way are going to die, and I will just keep tilling these fields.
That would be like a game version of the last shots of the film Silent Running, where the one remaining little robot continues tending the garden while everyone else dies.
Oh, that's so sad. Yes, it'll be that. And yeah, 100% Rusty's Retirement is kind of what I had in mind of like, oh, I have this automaton, and maybe he has other robot friends. Like he builds a robot friend. Can a robot build a robot? Is that illegal? Or is that weird?
Well, it would be a weird philosophical situation because then the robot would be reproducing. Yeah. So we'd have to open up the question of if it's a living thing and all that.
Oh my god!
Like in that one episode of Star Trek where Data made a daughter.
Data made a daughter? A data daughter?
Data made a daughter. Data made a data daughter. Yes.
Oh my god! Classic Data making a data daughter. Also sticking with Super Nintendo RPGs, I was looking at Earthbound, excuse me. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want like a century, like all 4 of the characters seem to have their own, they have their own time in the spotlight. I'm like, who else in this game would be interesting? And this got me thinking, I really like photography games. And I want to play a game where you play as the Fuzzy Pickles photographer who shows up at random who shows up at random key moments and takes pictures of the crew. But I kind of want a photography game where you are chasing the main character of another game. And almost like if there was like a war photography game where you're chasing the hero of a Call of Duty game, trying to like take the best pictures of the action to tell the story back to the people at home.
But like Dead Rising, but where you don't have to do the actions as well as taking the pictures.
Yeah, we're almost like you're not
looking at them,
right? Yeah. You're like running after him, like, and you're like, I don't have any weapons. Like, I'm kind of staying out of this conflict, but I wanna.
Combat photographer is a great idea. I'd play the shit out of that. Just like get dropped into different scenes and just be like, you have to find the newsworthy or like the journalistic worthy image. Go get it.
And it feels like it's happening. Like photography tools are becoming so prevalent in games, not only as like an actual in-game mechanic, like in Beyond Good and Evil or Zelda games have had photography, or Pokemon Snap or Alba's Wildlife Adventure or anything, but like just photography tools in game. Like all those first-party Sony games have all the things where it's like, oh, I can freeze the shot and I can move the camera and I can change the time of day and I can take the picture I want. It like feels like we're getting there to like really empowering.
You've reminded me of the Crush House as well.
Crush House, yeah, absolutely.
That would be, yes, a game where you film other characters.
Yeah.
And where we'll find out that that's actually kind of boring. So,
thinking about Resi, obviously a lot of Resi characters have had spin-offs, right?
Oh yeah, I think when they make Resident Evil games, like from like Resident Evil 2 onwards, the formula was just, let's get all the characters from the existing 2 games, put them on a big dartboard, throw 2 darts. There you go. That's the protagonist of the new Resident Evil game.
Yeah, and maybe for some DLC, you'll play as this, and they spin it, and it's like, oh, Ada this time. Yeah. Or here's a game in the train, and you play as Rebecca. You know who we've never got to play as?
Ethan Winters was like the first new Resident Evil protagonist since like the series began.
And even that, like very quickly by the end of the game, it's like, oh no, this is a Chris game. Sorry, like you're not the important one here. What's going on with the merchant? I want to know what the merchant do.
What are you
the Doctor Who merchant in Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, so I want a game where you need to be in the right place at the right time with the right goods. How does he know where to set up shop?
Yeah, like one of those shop management games, like Moonlighter.
Yeah. Shop management. Also, obviously, some like Resi-based inventory management a little bit there. But also being like, shit, I need to trek across this place. There's a bunch of El Gigantes here. But again, like the war photographer, he's a pacifist. He doesn't engage. He's just a merchant.
You do it like you do it like a farming crafting game, but the environments are all the environments that the hero is going to go through at some point. So you just go around all the monsters that are waiting for their queue.
Yeah.
Like, hi, don't mind me. Just gonna pick up some wood from these things. Gonna make it into like a stock to sell from my store later. Yeah. Then you talk to them and you get hot tips. Like say, oh, I hear the boss of the next dungeon is weak to shotgun bullets. So if you get some shotgun shells, you can charge a premium for them when the hero comes around.
Oh my god. I just like this concept in general of the idea of you not being the protagonist of this world and you are supplying or following the protagonist and having to do stuff for them.
And then he almost has like the Michael Jordan mentality where they asked Michael Jordan why he never spoke up about politics, and he said it's because Republicans buy shoes too. And so the merchant is like, you know what? Well, zombies and infected villagers need weapons too. So I don't want to get in the middle of this. Yeah.
Who's supplying all those sniper rifles?
Yeah.
Who's the ones slipping bullets into all the vases?
Yeah, who's making that Mad Max crazy armor?
You have to sprinkle ammo around so they actually make it to the next checkpoint and don't die.
It? Yeah. I'm going to take this necklace and I'm going to throw it up here in the tree and hopefully it gets caught on a branch.
At some point you steal someone's diary and then you just rip all the pages out and distribute the pages randomly around the environment to be picked up.
See?
Amazing.
And then that would explain that.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of being like the architect of everything. I guess what was that game? Dungeon Keeper? Dungeon Master?
Keeper?
Yeah.
Dungeon Keeper, yes.
Yeah, where you kind of create the dungeon for that the hero has to go through.
That's old school. That was like
extremely old
90s.
School.
Yeah.
90s PC game, the original Dungeon Keeper. Then they made a shitty mobile port.
Oh, that's right.
In more recent years. That was the most recent Dungeon Keeper game and nobody liked it.
I never played it. I just remember the cover of the Scary Devilman. Shout out to Scary Devilman. Yeah.
Big ups.
I have a bunch of other random ones, but did you guys have any others? Do you want me to just keep gabbing?
No, but all of our ideas seem to be how to support the hero. Do we think there's anyone who would do a good job as the hero in themselves?
It would have to be someone that needs to be supplied. Like Mario, for me, isn't a good idea for that kind of role because they're extremely self-sufficient. You'd need someone, a protagonist who is, going to a shop all the time, needs to be supplied, needs to be supported, but is still strong. So yeah, who would that be?
Wait, do you mean... Wait, no, Yahtzee was asking for just a character that would make a good, like, legit main character, right? Like, who's ready to graduate from being a second fiddle?
I mean, who would work in one of these supporting games.
I think so,
what
right?
Game,
Is that
what game could do with it like a Rogue One style prequel where someone does the busy work in order to set up the heroics of the next story?
Okay.
If we talked about obviously Zelda's and the key art here. Two other and they've already had like weirdos like Tingle has gotten his own games. We've never gotten a Ganondorf game to be like, well, I guess that's a whole like other bag of worms. It's like what villain would make an interesting like.
Oh, there's a couple of chapters in Hyrule Warriors where you play as Ganon.
That is right. Yeah, the Muso games you can play as any beasties. There's also I'm not crazy about Twilight Princess, but one thing I really do like is the kind of the spirit of it's like the hero spirit, I think it's called, is that skeleton warrior who teaches you all the wolf stuff. Yeah. And canonically, that is the spirit of the Link from Ocarina of Time, who just lives the worst life. Like it's just a complete fucking bummer. He loses his childhood, he loses his friends, and then he ends up growing up to be a fucking skeleton knight who has to teach an ancestor. So like what happened in that midlife to get you there? Like, did you have any happiness in his life?
Nothing good.
Nothing good.
No. Well, how do you know he doesn't really like being a skeleton? I mean, I'm sure there's advantages.
Sure. I mean, all of us are currently skeletons. So, I like it.
Hits bong rip.
Yeah.
All of us are currently the prisons of skeletons. There's a skeleton imprisoned inside of all of us.
Currently tiny little brains in a flesh mech.
We're just a big old skeleton dungeon. I'm trying to think who would.
Yeah,
did you have
me
any
too.
examples of like who would be interesting to play as like this is the first domino that ends up at like the story of the game?
Chrono's mum.
All right, what was Chrono's mom up to? What kind of a life did she live?
Yeah, I mean, she seemed fairly unfazed by all the shit Chrono did. She must have seen some shit in her time.
She traveled through time herself, so she knows. She knows where this is all going. She's seen the end of this.
Yeah.
House full of cats. Yeah.
I want to play a game where you play as the wolf who nursed Remus and Romulus to start Rome. So it's mostly just a wolf simulator, but also you've got to go home and feed your tiny baby children.
That was just what was that game? A really depressing apocalyptic game where you were a fox mum.
Oh yeah, that was a sad one from a few years ago.
We streamed that.
We streamed. I think that might have been like the first game. Really early on, we streamed. Yeah. I forgot what that was called.
It was. Yeah. Well, let's just call it Fox Mom.
Yeah.
Depressing Fox Mom.
I like that a lot. In terms of games going afterwards.
Oh, thank you, Jacob Kitty. Endling Extinction is Forever. That's why we didn't remember it, because it was a shit title.
It's a bad name. In terms of someone who could be a main character, kind of continuing on, it feels like at the end of Red Dead Redemption 2, the person who makes the most sense to continue on with was Sadie Adler, who's your one whose husband gets killed at the beginning, and she joins the gang and is like goes from just being like a wife on the homestead to like a crazy bounty hunter over the course of the decade.
Yeah, it really felt like they were setting her up for a DLC or a spin-off or something.
Yeah,
I honestly think that was the case, and then my gut says that like in a post GTA 5 world, Rockstar pivoted from story DLCs to online, and obviously Red Dead 2 never really took off online in the same way GTA did, but
it tried, but
yeah.
I mean, the first Red Dead Redemption had Undead Nightmare, which was
I love that kind of DLC. I love the one where it's like we could just do something kind of batshit crazy that isn't really canonical to what we are doing here.
The horses of the apocalypse in that DLC is like a core gaming memory for me.
Yeah,
like stumbling across those horses.
It's so cool. And it's a bummer that they didn't do a similar thing with either GTA 5 or I don't know. I guess GTA 5 probably has like whenever anyone's like, it doesn't have a campaign afterwards, they're like, but the DLC has 100 campaigns. And I'm like, well, I don't want to play online. I don't want people to yell at me.
I really like GTA Online and all of its accompanying story stuff. I think it's really, really good.
There's going to be such a big push in
GTA 6 for online.
I feel like you can swallow online better than I can. Just you've played MMOs for so long that like
true.
I played GTA Online. It was basically loading screen the game, as I recall.
Not wrong. Not wrong.
It's awesome.
I played a lot of mobile games playing that, just waiting for the fucking loading to finish. I just get my fucking phone out.
Yeah,
perfect. Second,
now, if any game would have benefited from a loading screen mini game, like in like I seem to be the only one who remembers it in the first Splatoon game, while you were waiting for a server, you could play a little bouncy platformer on your screen controller. I don't understand why every game doesn't do that.
Yeah, why have we stopped doing that? I guess because we're getting better and better at using like the hardware's using SSDs, so we're trying to move towards seamless loading screens and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but there's still a lot of PC games that utilize them. Why aren't we doing mini games in them?
That is a good point.
Because it's not difficult.
Something to fidget with, at least.
Yeah, I like it. Doesn't Okami have the thing where you could just jam on the button and you put a bunch of paw prints, and like if you get a certain amount of paw prints, you get like some energy.
Yes, and of course, famously Namco Bandai patented loading screen mini games, so people didn't want to try use it for a while.
By now, right?
It has. The patent expired quite a few years ago. There was like a game jam on it, but still, we haven't.
Oh, interesting. Like who can make the best loading screen game?
Yeah, we haven't had a loading screen mini game renaissance since then.
Soon,
and that should be about due for one.
Yeah.
Do you think anyone from there's two groups of franchises I want to throw out? One is the FromSoft world. Is there anyone in the FromSoft world who you think could make for a good spin-off journey? My joking one was Patches. A Patches game where Patches goes through the multiverse just to kick assorted heroes in the ass.
Patches is our follow the protagonist around NPC. This is the game. You play as Patches.
I was going to say Sieglind from Dark Souls 1, Sigmaier's daughter.
Ooh, yeah.
Because she has a whole off-screen adventure looking for her father, who's being a big silly.
Yeah.
And I remember what really stands out for me is that there's one line of dialogue where Sigmaier mentions that Sieglind isn't a hollow. Like, everyone else in Dark Souls that you meet is a hollow on their Hollow's pilgrimage or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
And for some reason, they just said, hey, she isn't hollow. She's just looking for her dad. And is worried that she might have to kill him again.
Huh.
So you could make a non-Souls-like spin-off out of Sieglind.
I like that.
It's all like the run-up to having to go to the cursed land where all the hollows hang out.
Yeah.
I want to play a city management game where you play as Gwyn, and you just got to manage the lands between.
What about Gavlan? Gavlan Merchant Game?
Gavlan. Yes. Gavlan Wheel, Gavlan Deal. That's the title.
There we go.
Oh my God, we got it here. Miyazaki, pick up the phone. And then the second series was, obviously, we've gotten Alex in terms, and we've gotten a Barney game. Does Barney count? Is Barney like canonically the main character of that game, or did they retcon that? Or
yeah, no, that's the same Barney.
Okay. Oh, they retconned the fact that Barney was in. Didn't they retcon some stuff in Half-Life 1 that certain characters you meet were more important than they actually were?
Well, in Half-Life 1, they didn't really have characters per se. Every scientist you meet is like one of 4 generic scientists, and every security guard is the same generic security guard.
Yeah.
Then in Half-Life 2, they retconned that one of the security guards was Barney Calhoun, who's like the model of every security guard in the game.
Last name's Calhoun.
And one of the spectacle-wearing scientists was Dr. Isaac Kleiner. And one of the black scientists was Dr. What's his name? Eli Vance.
Yeah. So Alex got her own game. Barney got his own game. Is there anyone else in the Half-Life and or Portal universe? Do you think a GLaDOS or a Wheatley game could work? Maybe in terms of the dungeon management, like try to fuck over a random ass people who are entering the experiment?
I see Wheatley having a sort of side puzzle game along the lines of your Captain Toad treasure tracker, where Wheatley has to figure out how to navigate the environment using only the rods that he's attached to.
Oh God.
Or like a trap game, like you were alluding to, like a game where you have to make sure that this, portal wielding little character in this game dies, and you have to place enough traps and twists and turns.
Yeah. Man, Portal's great.
Portal is great.
What if they made another one?
They'd need more gameplay gimmicks.
Is it wrong for me to say just do more of the same? I know that's bad, and we don't want that. But if it's the same quality as 2, what if you make more of it?
Just download fan missions, if that's what you want.
I don't want fans. What if they see pornos in there, and suddenly I'm playing pornos in my living room, and I don't realize it? I'm always worried about sneaky pornos.
Well, you should learn to welcome the sneaky porno into your life. Treat it like a nice surprise party. Oh, now that you mention it, I would like to have a wank.
No, sneaky pornos, out of here.
Open your arms to it, Marty. I mean, open one of your arms to it.
Embrace the sneaky porno. Yes. Get out of here, sneaky porno.
Unfold your palm for the sneaky porno.
Oh, no. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Sounds like a proverb. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Let's start on them super chats and let's go to all the fans' ideas.
We got a nice
starting with Hjorth87, who gives 50 Danish kroner, just says, "Hi peeps, Sadie from RDR2 could be interesting." There you go. Her continued adventures after leaving, or Karlak BG3 on her hunt for a cure for her heart in Avernus.
Yeah.
When I was playing BG3, I never ran into that character. I think
Karlak's a bit out of the way.
Characters?
I found vampire half-elf dude. I found emo wizardy dude. I found the late Shadowheart, the lady with the weird name.
I didn't even realize any of the characters were missable. Like, I just assumed you had to find all the characters.
No, they're
I didn't play it. Yeah, there was a big blind spot for me were Western RPGs in this prompt. Obviously, stuff like Mass Effect or Skyrim, any Elder Scrolls thing, any Fallout thing, Dragon Age, Witcher. I'm sure there's characters because Witcher's had, because I guess in Witcher 4 you're not playing as Geralt, right? They said you're playing as, is it Ciri? Is she a person?
Ciri, the AI voice. Yeah, she was introduced as like Geralt's successor. Throughout the games.
Did you play as her at all in like 3 or some of the DLC?
I think
there are small sections, where you play as. So.
Yeah. You know how I like? I've never played Fallout, but you know how I like? There's a one guy who talks like an old detective in like New Vegas. I want to play as him.
Yeah.
Who's that guy? He's like the dead guy who talks as a detective. See, what's his name?
Is that Johnny Detective, or is that 4?
I don't know. Is it 4?
I think it's 4.
Valentine. That's it.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yeah.
Yes, Nick Valentine. I think
he's in 4. My mistake.
He's
Apologies.
in 4. Yeah.
Doran Grossman Naples gives $5 and says, "I want to play as the swinging axes in Sen's Fortress, just swinging back and forth, making players miserable. So relaxing."
See,
that's perfect. A good answer. I like
that.
Yeah, that'd be like playing one of those mobile games where you just have to get the ball down the infinite tower by rotating the tower.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Sen's crazy
chained together, but Sen's Fortress.
Yes, yeah, where you're a swingy pendulum.
I want to play as Nito, and most of the games you sat in the dark, and then it's you doing one boss fight, and then you die.
I want to play as one of the secret arrow shooters that are activated by floor plates.
Just the anticipation, though. Oh my god! Please step on this floor plate.
It's an idle game, I guess, and you put your experience points into subtlety.
Subtlety, okay, yeah. More
to
art
make
and grind.
Adventurers less likely to notice the touch plate.
I love that.
Just a casual spectator gives $4.99 and says, "Off topic, do you prefer plot holes, lamp shading, or over explanation in game stories?" Man, if I talk about a fucking tangent curveball.
Yeah,
I'm personally fine with plot holes. I would rather have plot holes than over explanation.
Agreed.
What are you, a TV tropes editor? I don't
know. And what is lamp shading? Is lamp shading like?
Lamp shading is the sort of thing where, you know, in Uncharted games where you're having a gunfight in a burning building and Nathan Drake yells out, "Why are we still shooting when we're all going to die in this burning building?" That's lamp shading.
I hate that.
Drawing attention to the fact that something's surreal or crazy or dumb.
Is it like the characters complaining like The Last of Us when you're like, another ladder puzzle? And you're like, yeah, I also don't want to do the ladder puzzle.
It's like pointing out something that doesn't make sense to sort of
nip it in the bud,
preempt the angry commenters.
Yeah, like this can't be a complaint because we also know that it's bad.
We're aware of wasting your time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's silly. I'm just kind of plot holes. Whatever. Everything doesn't have to be a fucking math equation.
Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, "I think having an Outlast type of game for the original DBD killers could be fun.
Ooh.
Maybe an anthology series. Each killer gets their own bite-sized game."
That could be interesting.
Well,
they'd just be the same, though, right? They'd be very...
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, how would you make like a single-player game where you're the equivalent of like a Freddy Krueger or a Jason or a like Michael Myers? Like,
well, there was a game a while back on PS3 called Naughty Bear where you were a sort of a slasher villain teddy bear, and your job was to kill all the other teddy bears, and you got points based on like creativity and how scared you made a person before you killed them, and so you could set up something like a slasher movie thing where you have to rig up a bunch of bodies so that when someone walks in, all the bodies fall from the ceiling, and it's like that bit at the end of the horror film when the final girl is finally getting targeted.
So it's almost like Hitman, almost like creativity is a part of it.
Yeah, sort of.
But gruesome creativity.
Like a Nightmare on Elm Street, even just an actual Nightmare on Elm Street game where you're like dream hopping between different dream scenarios and stuff could be really cool.
Psychonauts, but you're a serial killer.
Yeah. Or even just a victim that you're trying to your job in the game is to escape the dream world and defeat Freddy and stuff.
Well, traditionally the job of the victims in Nightmare on Elm Street films was just to not fall asleep.
Right.
I guess maybe there's
Freddy
a game
has
in
complete
that.
control there.
Yeah.
But you know, like in Dream Warriors, you can make up some bullshit that they have a specific amount of power, so we can actually have some gameplay rather than drink this coffee.
the Nightmare on Elm Street game for the Commodore 64 was specifically based on Dream Warriors. You could pick which of the Dream Warriors you got to play as, and you got a different special power depending on which one you picked.
And I feel like that could be Yahtzee and I for Yahtzee Tries last week played. Was that the 10 Bells? Was that what it was called?
Oh yes, we rather liked that.
Yeah, so it was kind of this like loop, small looping horror game where you keep making a loop through an environment, and you have to see if something's weird. You got to turn around and leave the way you came, but if everything's normal, you continue on. And so you gotta it's the same premise as, what do they call those? The anomaly games. It's like there's the train station one that knocked it off.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was a new genre, but the first one I played is 10 Bells, and I like how it's finally found a way to gamify the PT experience in a way that makes sense.
And I like that the pairing that with the idea of the dream, like the dream world where you're in an environment you don't know what's going to happen, and like even it's not even maybe necessarily scripted. Maybe it pulls from a bunch of different things to where
you have to figure out if you're dreaming or if you're awake.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's fun.
You got to
that's
look for
really
dream
fun. I want to play that. I'm putting that on my
and if you're awake,
wish list.
If you're awake, go to work and have a normal day. And if you're asleep, if you go to work, then the boss turns into like your mum and tries to eat you with her vagina.
Oh my god!
Classic mom vagina, vintage.
Ann Mia, member for 8 months in the Green Gang, says, Marty, you should watch Happy! If you haven't already.
I don't think I know what Happy is. Is it an anime?
I don't know what that is.
I typed in Happy with an exclamation point, and the only thing that comes up is the Pharrell Williams video. A Minion's birthday card.
That's tough to Google, isn't it? That's a mistake people often make when naming their games and stuff.
Oh wait, is this the Grant Morrison show? An injured hitman befriends his kidnapped daughter's imaginary friend, a perky blue flying unicorn. I've never even heard of this.
That sounds lame.
Voiced by Patton Oswalt, starring Christopher Maloney, the hit Law and Order man. I think it's Law and Order. Oh my god.
Patton Oswalt just never says no to anything.
Cash that check.
Someone called Yahtzee will wear a green hat in 10 weeks, gives €2, and says, name a funny word combo like graveyard shenanigans.
Graveyard shenanigans.
Felonious psychopomp.
Psychopomp? What a word.
I think corn dog's funny.
Corn dog.
Corn dog.
Yeah, I don't have one right now. I'll stew on that and I'll scream it out.
Just at a random moment.
Yeah.
One of us is telling like a really painful story about our childhood. And
corn dog.
Haberdashery.
Hjorth 87 gives 20 Danish kroner and says, by the way, I just wanted to say I love your work. All three.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, some characters sound like good ideas for their own games, but then end up just okay. Like Captain Toad or that neon girl from Infamous Second Son.
I like Captain Toad.
Captain Toad's not like it's not a fucking 10 out of 10, but I think it's a fun little puzzle game.
It's a nice little puzzle game.
No. Yeah, I forgot I guess Sony does that a lot with like DLCs and spin-offs where they'll take a character, because there was the like Uncharted Lost Legacy that had the two different characters. There was First Light, which is I think what the Second Son thing. Ellie obviously took a main seat in Last of Us Part 2. I'm expecting we get an Atreus game at some point, right? Like Kratos.
Well, I guess the question is if that dynamic really works without Kratos, I suppose.
Yeah. Because I thought some of the Atreus only stuff was kind of dragging.
That whole chapter where
you walk around the forest with what's her name?
You walk around the forest basically helping the lady with her shopping.
And it's like, I'm glad you're having fun on this date. I'm not having fun on this date.
Though. I just think the narrative framing of that encourages it to feel like a drag, because Atreus is being a petulant, like, teenager.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh, you're getting to explore a fun thing. And this is something I was going to talk about earlier. I hate it in games when they try and add the same kind of gameplay with a different character, like with Mary Jane or Miles Morales in Spider-Man PS4. Like, give me the character I want to play. Stop making me play this other character. I don't want to play them. In a spin-off, when they've got their own mechanics and their own, like, they're fully fleshed out, that's great. But just as a little spin-off, miss me with that.
I mean, it's weird that in the games where they're introduced, Tails and Luigi both control identically to the main character. In some cases, with better skills. Like Tails can fly as well.
Yeah.
Send Sonic home. Tails has this in the bag. Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, Starstruck Vagabonds, Sarge, pretty please, Yahtzee? Well, I ain't going to do that. Yes, there's a character in Starstruck Vagabond where the whole joke is that he's the protagonist of a first-person shooter that's happening off-screen, and you're like the dude who comes to save him in the helicopter at the end.
Amazing.
So if you made a game about him, that would kind of kill the joke. Stan Tobias
vibes.
Yes, that was the intent. Stan Tobias gives $5 and says, off topic, but will there be a review of Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered when they come out? You know, I never played the Soul Reaver games.
Me neither.
Perhaps I'll give them a bash.
Oh my god.
Yeah, those got dated for the end of the year, I believe.
Well, now they've been reintroduced to a new audience by appearing in Astrobot. The time is right, perhaps.
Yeah, but so is Mr. Mosquito and all of that bollocks.
And Mr. Mosquito just got released on PlayStation Plus. I'm just saying.
The problem with Astrobot is it introduced people to so much old shit, but they don't fucking tell you what game they're from. So
as I said in my review, I wonder if that was a legal thing. I wonder if it actually named the character what they were supposed to be called, and like the IP owners might have gotten stroppy.
But like, how can you have the visual and in some cases audio rights to a character, and be able to allude to it but not be able to write the name? It's in my video on Astrobot, which is coming out later this week. I talk about Dead by Daylight because they have a stupid way of naming all their characters. They don't call things like people like Ghostface or Jason. They call them the something because of their shitty naming convention. I hate it. I think it was a choice they made.
The interesting thing is, you know how they refer to Michael Myers as the Shape?
Yeah, that's how he is in the credits.
Yes, that is how Michael Myers was credited in the credits of the original Halloween film.
Yeah,
they just call him the Shape.
But everyone in Dead by Daylight is the blank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like they're trying to pretend that it's not Pyramid Head. They're just saying, hey, this is the Executioner, but it's Pyramid Head. You all know that.
Yeah, it was. Astrobot, I thought was a little. I was a little bummed out by that. In the same way, just because I like Smash has that sort of like museum to where you can go into every character, and I think it says their first anything that appears in the game, their first appearance in Nintendo history. It's like a paragraph. Yeah. My gut says it's because everything in Astrobot is like presented as if it's in the fiction of the world. Like it doesn't acknowledge that video games are real, despite the fact that you're on a spaceship that's a fucking controller and everything. Which isn't a good excuse, but I think that's probably the excuse rather than a legal issue.
I don't
know. If it's not a legal issue, I hate it.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. If it's an artistic choice, I don't think it's a good artistic choice.
Maybe they just didn't want to have to describe all the games you can't actually buy anymore because they'd have to have admitted that at the end.
Yeah, they'd have to like sort characters by can I purchase them on PS5?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Hey, this character was in a really exciting game. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, never mind that. Here's some more particle effects. Red Dwarf 42 gives $4.99 and says, yeah, so he wants to have a video game version of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. You've misunderstood something I've said before in that I believe we already have a video game version of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, and it's the Stanley Parable.
There's just no core text that it is commenting on.
Yeah, it's a satire on the concept of the linear video game narrative.
Yeah. Stanley Parable's really good. Did you ever play the Beginner's Guide?
Yes, I really like that.
Yeah, so did I.
I mean, it's not a game. but it's a fun narrative experience. It's like being
That's
on a
the point, though, right? That's the whole point. Yeah,
it's on a little Disney ride.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird one. I did a marathon. I did a stream of playing Stanley Parable and then playing the beginner's guide afterwards, and it was extremely surreal, especially like as a game dev, because it's all about people obsessively looking into your work and stuff like that. Like it was very therapeutic in a way.
Why do you only do marathon streams of games with very deep and meta?
I don't know, Marty. It's because people request I do these.
Did you at any point in the course of playing a beginner's guide, like think, is this real? Is this like from the beginning?
A little bit, yeah. Until I
Like,
got to the end, there was a big debate I had with
like,
my audience and the person I was playing it with, who's a fellow game dev friend of mine, who wanted me to play it.
Because at
I was
the
going
very
through
beginning,
thinking it was real, but
at the very beginning, because Davey Reedon like introduces himself as himself, and the initial thing he shows you from this like this coder person's work is like a dodgy Counter-Strike map.
Yeah.
And it lends it an air of authenticity. So I thought for a certain amount of time that maybe like this was a true story, and it genuinely was like a tribute to some kind of lost friend.
As it got to the end, like I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it, because it is a really interesting.
It's worth playing, and it's pretty short too. So
yeah. But when it got towards the end, I was like, and it also made me. I can never look at like a street lamp the same ever again. Like if I especially see one in a game, I'm like, "Against God."
Oh, he's at it again.
Yep.
Humane Shield gives 9.99 and says a Fallout game where you play as the Overseer and you have to keep the populace under control while continuing whatever unethical project Vault-Tec assigned you. Isn't there like mobile games along those lines where you like run a vault?
Yeah, there's Fallout. Vault. What is that game called? What's the Fallout mobile game called? Vault Boys? Fallout Shelter.
Fallout Shelter,
Boys?
Yeah.
Fallout Shelter, yes. That's what that is. There you go.
Yeah, and I think they also released Elder Scrolls, like a game called Elder Scrolls Castles, where it's the same thing, but Elder
Scrolls. Sounds awful.
Yeah.
James Morgan gives 4.99 says, like Jamate, a game as Q, making gadgets for James Bond. Failure that states being gadget blows up or is noticed before use.
I like that.
Like just picking what gadgets. Oh, this is the brief for James Bond's mission. What gadgets would he need to complete his mission?
And then
maybe you get a little supercut of of him doing it if he succeeds or fails.
Oh no, he's dead. He drowned.
Yeah,
you didn't supply him with any form of oxygen for his underwater mission.
It sounds great fun. Quite simple to make as well, especially if you don't do like a preview afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's just effectively picking the right things. That's a great little puzzle game.
Snake in the Garden gives €2 and says patches could be like Goose Game mechanically.
Oh my god!
Going around making people's days worse and being an asshole.
I like that for the Goose, it's just like, oh, you're being kind of a nuisance, but for patches, it would be like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick this dude into a pit.
Yes.
Yeah, I love when you can summon patches into the Radahn fight in Elden Ring, and he'll just be like, nope, and then zoom right out of there. He's like, nah, I'm not fighting this man.
I want do you know like weird multiplayer games? I want to have the normal multiplayer of the Souls games, but there's a new feature which is you can load into someone's game as patches, and your only goal is to just sneak around following them and then find a way to kick them off. And if you succeed, you get a load of points, and then you go back to your world. I just want to play that.
It's the only invader I want to be.
Yeah. Like a unique. What are they called? Those like religions you can join in Dark Souls.
Oh, Covenant.
Oh, like
Covenants, yes.
Yeah.
Like a unique. It'd be like the Patches Covenant, where you have to knock people off ledges.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "Why not Sasha from Psychonauts having an Origin game?
Ooh,
how would it be different to Psychonauts?" Alex Armstrong. It would just be Psychonauts, but with a different dude.
But in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of like an Austin Powers game. Did you know that there was an Austin Powers game for Game Boy Color developed by DMA Designs, who would go on to be Rockstar just a few years later?
What?
So
I knew there was an Austin Powers Game Boy game. I didn't know DMA did it. Although DMA were already a well-known game designer in England because they made Lemmings. They were the developer of Lemmings
and
back in the day.
PlayStation Silicon Valley, which is one of my favorite N64 games. We need a big budget. They should pivot. They should cancel Grand Theft Auto 6 and just make a big budget Austin Powers game.
Agreed. I'd play the shit out of that.
Well, they'd have to cast Mike Myers in it, and apparently he's a bit of a prat.
Yeah. Austin Powers is great.
SNL guys, they do get like that.
Zaratha gives $5 and says, mentions Chrono Trigger but not Magus. I want to know his story after the extra time devourer ending, and if he really turns into Guile from Cross or no. Okay, that's going over my head a bit.
Yeah, there's there's a character in Chrono Cross named Guile, who's this he's like a thief magician who wears one of those little party masks. What do you call those?
Right,
masquerade.
Masquerade masks.
He has the same hair as Magus, and there's fan theories that he is Magus, sort of being unstuck through time, trying to figure shit out how to save his sister.
DM Bilan 99 gives $5 and says the first episode with Data's daughter was amazing representation. Data specifically says he wants his child to choose their own gender and species.
Look at that. Come on, you Data.
Cool.
You obviously got very, very excited when we brought that up.
Daddy Data's, what did we call it? Daddy Data's dumpers?
Daddy Data's daycare?
Daddy Daughter Day.
Daddy Data's daughter daycare?
Yeah. If only he'd called her Deirdre. But he didn't. He called her Lowell.
Wow.
Yeah, that is
But he was bad at names, I guess.
Yeah.
Lowell. Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, Marty's photography game idea reminded me of Content Warning. Maybe we can get a more realized game like that. Maybe both photos and videos.
Yeah, we streamed that a little bit.
Yeah,
this year, right?
Making game mechanics out of filming is exponentially more complicated than making game mechanics out of taking still photographs.
Yeah.
Brawl
I'm curious to see if people do continue with that. Sorry.
Brawl the Man gives $2 and says Venom from Spider-Man would be great. Now I'm sure there's a ton of games where you can play as Venom.
Spider-Man and Ultimate Spider-Man on the PS2, I believe. You play as him for a while.
Carnage. You play as Venom. You play as Venom.
And in Spider-Man 2. Yeah, in Spider-Man 2, you have the final boss fight against Kraven playing as Venom.
There was from some of those Sony leaks last year or whenever, I think they said that there at some point was plans to make a Venom standalone DLC or whatever, the same way there was Spider-Man Miles Morales, have the equivalent but with Venom as a standalone game.
It's a Shadow the Hedgehog thing for me. I don't really get the appeal of Venom. I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah. It's it's the edgy version of the character, the dark edgy
I've never really
version.
liked that. See, I get it when it's the complete opposite, Bizarro Superman. I kind of get because he's such an ideal and it is the complete opposite of him in so many ways. But when it's just it's the main character, but they're a bit sad or a bit more violent, I'm just got to have a black suit on.
Well, this will be something that I cover in my semi-emblematic that's coming up the week after this week. But it comes down to aging with the audience, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sonic was for edgy teens originally. He was the edgy version of Mario. He had a frowny face and everything. Mm. But then those teens got a bit older and they had to have an even edgier hedgehog.
They had to have an even edgier hedgehog is a sentence.
Yes. Hence Shadow with a gun. They were trying to pursue the same audience by being more grown up with the edgy hedgehog with a gun and the bat with tits. And that was probably an error on their part.
I like that Nintendo did that similarly with Wario, but then just pivoted and Wario was just a big old pervert. A big old pervert weirdo. I'm good.
And found his own niche as well, WarioWare games.
Somehow he has his own games.
Yeah.
Look at that shirtless Wario. One of my fantasy football teams is just called Shirtless Wario.
Oh god.
Nice.
Great. And it's a picture of him.
Tommy Salty, member for 10 months in tip jar. Thank you very much. And then Tommy Salty comes on with 10 PLNs and says Buca di Beppo deserves their own game.
Like Tapper. Remember Tapper? One of the early arcade games.
Alcohol game?
Well, Buca di Beppo appears in the upcoming Adventure is Nigh card board game with based on Red Dragon Inn. I've seen some of the art they've done for it, and it's very special.
It is incredibly special.
It is extremely good, yeah.
Are there games where you play as like a bartender in the same way that there's like Overcooked?
Besides Tapper.
Yeah, there must be.
Isn't that one game? There's like an indie, like kind of horny future noir game where you're a bartender. Was it Valhalla?
Oh.
With the H's and the ones?
Why is it with these bloody sim games? Are we only playing like industrial, like truck drivers or farmer? Like, why can't I have a sim game where it's like barmaid or like pub owner? I spent a huge part of my childhood in a pub. I grew up in one.
I think it'd be great.
Well, you need to be playing more. You need to be playing more mum games, is what you want to do. There's tons of like waiting tables games that the audience that traditionally likes mum games, like hidden object games, seem to gravitate to in a big way.
I just want to explore more jobs. I want to have like a blacksmith sim game or like.
Did you play Ravenous Devils?
No.
That was a combination restaurant management murder simulator.
Okay.
Where you basically played Sweeney Todd and his wife.
Yeah, you streamed that, right?
Yeah, I reviewed it in like a double bill with something else.
Okay, yeah.
I rather liked it in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Just a bit short. James Morgan, who's 499, and says, game as Riddler, leaving question marks for Batman while avoiding him and other villains' thugs.
This would be a great place for a question mark.
Doesn't Riddler like delegate all his question mark placing, and that's why you interrogate like a million different thugs throughout the course of Arkham City to find out where they are?
Oh, sure. He assigns like, okay, you got to get these 5 question marks.
Yeah.
How am I going to get to the roof of this building? It doesn't matter.
He's a big delegator. You should play as the Batman play as the Riddler from the new Batman, where he's like a creepy incel who sneaks into people's houses and then beats them to death. It'd be like Hitman, but where you're really bad at it.
Yeah, and then putting question marks into your latte art.
Yeah.
Murderer simulator.
Hitman, but you're bad at it.
Yeah.
Hitman, but you're bad at it is just like that's the Wet Bandits from
Home Alone.
Home Alone. Yeah.
Home Alone, yeah.
DM Bilan 99 gives $5 and says, pet peeve time, it's Descendant. Ancestor is a past relative. Descendant is a future one. All right. What's wrong with descendant as a word?
I don't know. But also, you can't say it's pet peeve time and then spell pet peeve wrong.
Yeah. Well, maybe he was shortening it for like the Zoomers in the audience.
I don't know.
Pepev.
Pepev Le Pew?
Pepev Le Pew. Now, there's a character you don't see much of these days, do you? Mr. Sexual Assault, the character.
Probably good.
I mean, you can get away with Speedy Gonzalez if you put a disclaimer at the front, but not the sexual assault skunk.
Yeah.
Sexual assault skunk. That's the name of one of my fantasy football teams.
You know, there's a children's book that my kids like called The Pout Pout Fish. Have you heard of this?
No.
There's like a whole series of them now. It's like the first one was a bestseller. It's about a very sad fish because he pouts all the time. But then he realizes that he's actually a kiss fish because another fish comes along and forcibly kisses him.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, wait, isn't this legitimizing sexual assault?
We gotta change these
Do you think, if I see someone who's sad, I should rush over to them and kiss them on the mouth?
Let's just run over and kiss them full on the mouth and make them realize that a pout can also be a kiss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If anyone, as a pro tip, if you go to a funeral soon, just start kissing everyone. Makes everyone feel better.
Yeah. There are a lot of sad people at funerals.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kissable faces.
Oh, blimey, there's still quite a lot of these. Ryan Petron gives 189 and says, how do I feel about a gritty, grounded Halo prequel where you play as Sergeant Johnson fighting the Covenant, waiting for Master Chief to wake up?
It's the same game, isn't it?
That does sound very Rogue One-y.
Yeah, you are playing as a human, though. You don't have your cool Mjolnir armor. I like that.
Yeah.
You got some armor, I guess, but no Mjolnir.
John Brooks gives £10 and says, a Fallout game playing as Conrad Kellogg, the first boss-stroke villain in Fallout 4, as his backstory seen through Flash backstory was way more interesting than most of the stories you did.
His name was Conrad Kellogg?
Yeah.
Like the creator of cereal? It's good
But
name.
instead the creator of crime.
Wasn't he the guy who stole your baby?
No, I think you think he is the guy who stole your baby, but actually isn't.
Turn out
I
didn't know
believe.
ate your baby.
Correct me if I'm wrong, chat.
I can't remember. I just remember that the first boss you fight talks to you about stealing your baby.
I'm going to start saying the opposite. Instead of correct me if you're wrong, say, I don't want to hear. I don't want to.
Yes.
I just want to live in ignorance.
Okay. Lie
I'm
to
going to
me
live in
if I'm
ignorance,
correct. Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, friend of mine says Captain Falcon is a bounty hunter.
Ooh, it is weird. Captain Falcon might be one of the rare OG, I guess him and Ganondorf, OG Smash characters who haven't had their own game yet.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been an F-Zero game in the longest time.
Yeah.
Because he has had his own game. Well, like F-Zero is technically.
Yeah, but you like play as any character you want. There's no, as far as I know. No,
Yeah,
don't correct me if I'm wrong. I want to live in ignorance, chat. There's no game where Captain Falcon is like the main character. But yeah, it could be one where he's just going around different space bars, beating the shit out of people.
Well, there's plenty of characters in Smash who were never the main character in games. Like that lady who's Pit's friend in Kid Icarus, the God Lady.
Oh yeah, Paulatina.
Oh yeah, God Lady.
I'm saying that she's never had her own game.
Yeah. But those were like later Smash characters. Like Captain Falcon's been there since the original.
Which is odd. Honestly.
Yeah. I guess Jigglypuff is also there.
F-Zero.
We haven't had any Jigglypuff games.
Fuck's sake.
Are you sure about that? There's a lot of Pokemon spin-offs.
I have a couple fan games, but every time I try to publish them, the police call me and say, please don't.
Please don't.
Well, okay then.
It's where Jigglypuff's fucking. That's like sort of the main crux of the games.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what else are you going to do?
He's got one of those. He's got one of those weird little like twirly dongs, like a duck.
Wait, Jigglypuff's power is putting people to sleep.
Oh no!
Oh,
is this a
Pepe Le Pew.
Oh no, Pepe Le Pew! What have we done?
No.
What have we done?
We've gone full circle. No. I can smell him.
Pepe Le Puff.
Oh no!
Witticism would give $5 and says Hornet from Hollow Knight would make an interesting protagonist. Team Cherry should get on that. I bet people would be excited. I think they're making a sort of a witty thing there.
A witticism, if you will. I want to know what's going on with this game.
Like, I know. How long have we been hearing about this thing?
Just 4
or 5 years.
That's way too long for a game like what it is.
Well, it started as a DLC, free DLC, and then they spun it off into its own game. I don't think their team size has grown much larger than what it originally was, which was like. I think
there must be something terribly wrong going on with management.
Or they're just trying to make it. Hollow Knight was one of the biggest indie games ever released. I'm sure they just have a lot of pressure on them.
There's been like 90,000 games like Hollow Knight in the intervening years. I don't know why it should take so long. I'm sure
they just want to live up to that.
I mean, that's the worry, right? Is like it's been so long that like a sequel that is just seemingly more of the same can't. Like, how do you match that, right?
I think they're just trying to make it longer. I think they just want to put more and more and more stuff in it.
Yeah.
I feel for them, honestly. Like the amount of pressure, we cannot fathom the amount of pressure Team Cherry are on. Under right now. They've got enough money though.
Hell, we're all under pressure to produce work for the money we're paid. That's just
very
life.
true, but
it is interesting when I'm always like, if you are a small team who makes an indie game that is like that beloved, like it must be kind of terrifying of like what you do next. Like what does Lucas Pope do after Return of the Obra Dinn? What does what does the Outer Wilds team do after that?
Lucas Pope makes whatever the fuck he wants because he's a creative auteur, and that's why I love him.
He's cranking. He's out there cranking.
Yeah, he's cranking away.
Like Pepe Le Crank.
No.
Snake in the Garden gives €2 and says Tom Nook, Turnip Stock Exchange plus Loan Shark game. Now, if any idea feels like something Nintendo might actually do at some point, it's a Tom Nook spin-off.
Yeah. That just seems like a lot of math. You're like a bad dude. You're predatory. You're a predatory lender. I don't like it.
Well, I think he has that reputation, but I think Nintendo, it's probably crossed their mind to maybe, try to assassinate his character at some point.
Well, he has those
seems
two.
like, it's the type of thing that I feel like an outside of Nintendo game studio would start making, and they'd come and just say, "Hey, we want to do this thing," and they go, "Yeah, we could make money off that. Here's a bunch of money as long as you don't swear."
I got it.
And then there you go.
He's got his two kids here. It is Tom Nook is getting ready to retire, and it's just Succession who takes over Nook Industries.
Nice. Yeah.
How about his two kids both have terminal illnesses, and that's why he has to sting everyone for cash everywhere he goes.
Sus.
There you go. It's like Breaking Bad, but Tom Nook
on Animal Crossing Island. Animal Crossing Island is just part of America.
Oh god.
Yeah. What do you think's in those? What do you think's in those turnips that makes them so valuable? That's how he's transporting the myth.
Insulin. Oh no.
Insulin. Cure for cancer.
Stephen Bell, speaking of Animal Crossing, Stephen Bell gives £2 and says Ashley from Resident Evil 4. Well, there was a segment
or after Resident Evil 4.
There was a segment of Resident Evil 4 where you do play as Ashley, and
from Armor.
It was kind of shit. I remember playing Resident Evil 6, and you run into like that one, like you're playing Leon's campaign, and he runs into that one character who's like Shelley from Resident Evil 2.
Oh,
and for a moment, I was really excited. I was like, "Is that Ashley?"
Yeah,
because I'd only played Resident Evil 4 at that point.
Oh, it's like no, it's
like has Ashley joined the Secret Service as well?
Yeah,
but no, it was just Sherry fucking Birkin.
Fucking Sherry.
I guess they've done. I like Ada. I feel like Ada could have her own game. She had the Separate Ways DLC.
Again, that's already been spun off.
Yeah.
You can just play the Separate Ways DLC.
Yeah.
Will Cooling gives £2 and says Knuckles would better fit a 3D platformer than Sonic.
I don't know, man. The Knuckles levels in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are rough in my mind. You would think because he's got the cool gliding ability and he can climb shit, but
yes, unfortunately, making a good 3D platformer would depend on the developer not being crap, and that's Sonic Team out, I'm afraid.
Shout out to Sonic Frontiers.
Don't get me started on Sonic.
Also, Sonic's coming to Topgolf. That's all that matters. I'm very excited for Sonic Topgolf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alex Armstrong gives $2. Says more of Bowser. We've only got Bowser's Inside Story. You could play Super Mario RPG. He's a party member in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or any of the sports games.
Stomp, punch, fire.
Well, there's those bits in like Paper Mario 2 where you play as him playing through one of Mario's traditional platforming levels, and he just sort of barges through everything, destroying it as he goes.
Yeah.
I feel like a baby Bowser would be a more interesting, or Bowser Jr., whatever the fuck his name is, would be a more interesting character because he rides around in that cool little floating thing, and he's got that paintbrush. Let me paint things.
Hey, Bowser's dying. It's Succession with the Koopa Kids.
That's our idea for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, Baby Bowser's kind of your sidekick in the Bowser's Fury thing.
Yeah. What if you're Bowser, but it's like a cross between Pikmin and Overlord, to where you're not doing the combat, you're just like controlling a bunch of your minions to do the combat for you.
Just flinging Goombas at dudes.
Yeah, flinging Gumbas.
Stop saying Gumba. It makes me feel uncomfortable every time you say it like that.
I call Gumbo Goombo as well.
The etymology of this. What about Gumba makes you feel weird?
I don't know, but it's Goomba. It's an Italian-American term for a foolish person or a thug who works for a crime lord. Goomba.
Goomba. Gumby.
Gumby.
Math Demigod gives $10 and says, for Yachts to sing, if he's up for it. Oh, Christ. He's Arnold, Arnold, Arnold. A rimmer without him, life would be much grimmer. He's handsome, trim, and no one slimmer. He will never need a Zimmer. There. Are you happy?
What is that song?
It's Red Dwarf.
It's a Red Dwarf reference.
Oh, Red Dwarf.
Watch Red Dwarf, Marty. It's really good.
Too busy. I'm watching Evil Season 2.
Okay,
it seems
fair.
to come up a lot. Red Dwarf references.
I don't think I'd like it. It's fine. There's a lot of stuff I don't like.
Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, bit of a bum lick, but why not make your one day a Warlock idea with James Fowler following in Trilby's footsteps? Don't even have to make it point and click. Because I don't wanna, Alex Armstrong. It'd be too much work. But yes, he's referencing an idea I pitched in an old Dev Diary video once that I thought about doing before time loop games became really popular because it was a time loop game. But then it felt like a lost cause because everyone had already done the time loop thing.
A lot of time loop games.
Ezra Clark gives $2 and says the referee from Punch Out. Wasn't that just Mario?
That's just Mario. I see what you're doing here. You're being a little goof, a little scamp. Wow, Eric was very quick on that comparison. Holy shit.
He had it ready. He could see the super chats ahead of time.
Yeah.
You could see the code.
BK Griller gives $5 and says, forget Sarge, I want a prequel about Dripberg and Son, space lawyers, better dial Dripberg. Now, I believe that's a reference to Starstruck Vagabond, which is a very, very good indie game that you should all buy. It's available on Steam right now.
I heard it is the best game of the year, and that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth can go to hell.
Well, apparently that's what the buying public have said.
That's what I said.
Square apparently been in a bit of dire straits. Actually, it sounds like quite a lot of big money developers are kind of in dire straits right now.
Every time they say it didn't meet our expectations, my thought is always just lower your expectations.
Well,
say it exceeded your expectations, then everyone's
unfortunately, they need to pay for their CEO's $100 million yacht.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I'm hoping for a AAA renaissance. I'm hoping they're all going to die out. AA and indie.
Like there's stirrings on the grapevine that if Assassin's Creed Shadows doesn't do well, then Ubisoft's kind of fucked.
Yeah, I think that's why they delayed it to next year. Make or break.
Got to make it extra overly polished. Gives $1.99 and says difference between a gobshite and a wanker. Well, gobshite I would associate more with Gaelic / Celtic accents, and wanker feels like it's more at home with the South London derived accents, like the Australian and South African accents.
Isn't like a wanker? You call someone a wanker, whereas gobshite isn't that like a situation like bullshit?
No. You call someone a gobshite. So a gobshite is someone who they're kind of full of shit and they just go around saying the wrong stuff. They're just lying, right? They're just talking shit.
Someone who makes shite come out of their gob.
Yeah, but a wanker is someone who's just a dick. Like you're a wanker.
Yes. I mean, literally, it's someone who masturbates. But in general terms, it's used to mean a contemptible person.
Yeah, like in British slang terms.
Yes. But yes, if you were trying to fit in as a Scottish person in Scotland, you'd be more advised to call people gobshites. But if you were trying to fit in as like an Australian person in Australia, you might be better off calling them wankers.
Gotcha. And if you're in the States, I recommend calling people gumbas.
Don't do that. It will upset me. DM Bilan 99 comes back with $5 and says, there is a blacksmith sim. It's called Fantasy Blacksmith. It has some jank, but it's very satisfying. Yeah, I'm sure there's more than one.
There's probably a sim of all those games. I'm sure there's bartending sims.
Yeah, there's a surprisingly
point them out in the comments.
There's a surprisingly large subgenre of games where you play a potion shop man. Selling potions.
There's a few of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the equivalent of like, a farming game in a fantasy world. Obviously, fantasy is needed or farming is still needed in fantasy worlds, but like an equivalent fantasy job in a fantasy world. The fuck is this? You just got a little skull in front of you? Oh, you dropped into your little bucket.
Farming's probably a lot easier in fantasy worlds because you can conjure water into the soil.
Yeah, but can you tell? Like, do you think there's like certain produce that is more expensive that's like magic free? It's like pesticide free produce.
That's the turnips from Animal Crossing.
Yeah, organic.
Non-magically grown produce. It's natural. It's better for you. And all the wizards are like, there's actually nothing chemically different between organic and magically produced produce. Yeah. It's
like, just literally conjured this from nothing. I don't trust this.
Just artificially inflating prices.
I'm very curious when you guys start to play Echoes of Wisdom, because there's one side quest where you have to like bring a fish that a mom cooked to a son across the map, and I created an echo of the fish, got to the son, and I just echoed it, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't the same. I could tell this isn't my mom's fish. You need to literally bring the one she put."
Wow.
But then it got me thinking about like I keep summoning all these beings into existence to fight with me. Like, do they have souls? Am I creating things with like souls and consciousness and like
well, now we're overthinking it. I think it was occasionally brought up in Star Trek that some people were a bit snobby about eating replicated food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you can taste the atoms if you don't grow it yourself. It tastes a bit too molecule-y.
Yeah.
You're making corrupted versions, Marty. You're like Morgoth.
Yeah.
You can create corrupted versions of elves.
Like photocopying a photocopy.
Have you been watching Lord of the Rings?
What, Rings of Power? Yeah, I've been. Oh,
okay.
Mate, have I got notes?
I
got notes?
Because it's wrapping up the end of this week, right?
Or
next week?
Either that or one more. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so we're gonna get you, mark your calendar, the 15th.
Sure thing.
DMB Lan 99 comes back with another $5 and says, "Lol, stop making fun of my poor spelling. I pay your wages, lol."
Okay, first off, if you Johnny come actually us, you better know that you've opened yourself up to show your full ass. If you Johnny come actually anyone on the internet, you best not miss, because my lord, that needs to reflect.
My lordy.
And you only pay our wages if you join the Patreon, I'm afraid, which is one of the many good reasons to join the Patreon.
You say that like the money we get from super chats goes into the void.
It's not real.
Used to pay our wages.
It's fugazi. I feel like the MB line is also part of the Patreon, but you know what? We're still gonna Johnny come actually you.
Nick just takes all the super chat money to pay for his Halo merch.
This is true.
Pay for his Cortana.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Cortanas, that boy.
Do you think Cortana could be the main character of a game? Play as a little AI?
No. That's a stupid idea, and you're stupid for bringing it up.
My apologies.
See yourself to the bin, mate.
My apologies.
Moving on. Longshanks gives £5 and says, "Jim Gordon detective game pre-Batman." That'd just be the Gotham TV series, wouldn't it? P.S. Hey, Yachts, will there be a physical copy of We'll Leave the Galaxy for Good? Yes, there will, always. They just have to be an audiobook first, because that's the deal we have with Audible. They've got to be an audiobook for at least 6 months before we can get the physical version out.
Ooh.
Is it a big palaver getting a book published and then made physically? Is that like a whole bunch of steps?
Not really. I leave it to my agents and the publishers to work it out between themselves. I just go off and make the genius happen.
I imagine it's probably tough to get your first one out there, right? But once you've had...
Oh, yeah. Once you're established, you just go to a publisher or an agent and say, "Hey, here's my 15 other published books. Publish me." And they go, "Yes, sir." My advice would be to use the internet these days. If you can get popular on the internet, the world will beat a path to your door.
Very true.
That's what I did.
I would suggest using the metaverse.
It's sad to say, but the best way to get a book deal these days is to already be famous for something else.
It is sad.
They use word of mouth. Just go out on the streets and ask everyone you see if you can have a book deal.
Yeah, 1 out of 100 people are agents, so they can make it happen.
Okay.
In the Matrix, it's more than 1 out of 100. Am I right? A little Agent Smith.
Lol.
I don't know what that noise was. It made a ram noise. Like that was a Matrix noise.
That was a Matrix reference.
John Brooks, member for 10 months in the Green Gang, says, "Jamates, Tavern Keeper and the like are out there." Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah. I'll check them out.
I want a game where I play as the bartender from Catherine, who may or may not be Satan. I want that game.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Giving little fun facts to people as they sit down at the bar.
All the games gives $4.99 and says, "Yahtzee, TF2 animation source, ST Black ST. I recommend starting with Extraordinary Weekend and exploring from there. Fights, musicals, and more."
What does that mean?
Who's got time to explore random YouTube channels?
What does that mean?
I've gotten
into... I assume it's someone who makes TF2 source filmmaker animations.
Oh, I see.
Which I've expressed an enjoyment for back in the day.
Almost got 1 million followers. They gotta be good.
Ooh. No, I've mostly been watching true crime shit lately, like videos of police interviews where the guy finally cracks and admits that he murdered his wife. I don't know.
I watch
They're
a lot
fun
of
to
those.
watch.
The channel
where
I
are we?
watch. I'll remember it now.
I've been watching this one dude with a really dorky voice. He did a big video on JonBenet Ramsey, a bunch of other people. Someone will
Really
remember.
dorky voice.
I'll find the one I watch and I'll send you a link because I think you'd dig it.
He's got a fun video about someone who was like trying to be the real life Gone Girl, but fucked it up.
Oh fuck!
Was just very bad at being Gone Girl. Anyway, Longshanks gives £5 and says, off topic, what are your thoughts on advanced access? Example, for an extra £25, you can play the first 2 chapters of Life is Strange 2 weeks early. Well, it's useful for me as a reviewer. I did that when fucking Star Wars Outlaws came out. Bought the Super Edition, invoiced it back to the company, and could just play the game 3 days early. And because the fucking publishers obviously wouldn't give us a review code.
It's a bad practice that I feel like needs to go away. And hopefully Star Wars Outlaws might be the thing that makes it go away, because it launched, at least on PlayStation, with a ton of bugs that they patched before the official launch of the game.
Yeah.
And one of the things was, if you've started playing early, you might want to just delete your save file and restart, so that all the bugs are repatched. So it's like, I paid to play this early and now I have to do that.
Yeah, but it's like pre-orders. They would have made so much money off of it. Extra money.
Aren't they doing this with Silent Hill 2 next week?
Silent Hill's 48 hours. I think you could start playing Silent Hill 2 if you have the deluxe edition on Sunday the 6th as opposed to Tuesday the 8th.
I don't agree with this practice in any case, but I think it's more forgivable in like multiplayer settings.
So it has WoW did the same thing, right?
WoW did the same thing, and I bought the version to have early access, but that's because I wanted to make a video on it. And because of my job, I'm busy a lot of the time. So I wanted to have that extra time to be able to keep pace with my friends when they started playing. So I can kind of see situations where you might want to use it in multiplayer settings. But the remake of Silent Hill 2 having a fucking early access period, that just seems very dystopian to me. I hate that.
Get an extra $10 out of your most passionate fans. I mean, it's...
Does it have early access period on PlayStation 5 only, or is it both versions?
Usually they're all versions. Because Silent Hill, I don't think it's coming to Xbox. I think it's just PlayStation and PC.
It's going to be on Steam, is it?
I actually don't know. To remake Steam, I assume so. Pre-purchase Silent Hill 2 on Steam. Yes.
Yep, there it is. But does that have the? I guess it doesn't matter because I don't work Sundays anyway. So,
the $79.99 one is the one you need to buy. Advanced access starts October 5th.
Well, there you go.
Ahead for an extra $10. Thank you.
I mean, I guess I could just blow off my kids for Sunday.
We'll play Silent Hill 2 with them.
Oh yeah, they'd love that.
If you're bad, if you don't eat your vegetables, this is where you're going to go.
Yes, and I'm going to murder you with a pillow.
To traumatize your children and make them scared of fog.
I mean, fog is naturally scary. You should be afraid.
It is naturally scary.
Yes, especially when driving. You should be scared of fog.
Agreed.
Incredibly dangerous.
Well, Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says Resident Evil monsters with their own campaigns. Well, that's just silly, Alex Armstrong. Although you can play the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster in a liquor costume, and it looks very weird.
That's pretty funny. I wonder what about a game where you've been infected, and as you go on, you are like slowly turning. So it's almost like the Sifu aging thing. You're like gaining some abilities, but losing some of your own humanity. And
it makes me think
X amount of time.
I like that.
It makes me think of that one chapter in Eternal Darkness in medieval times where you play as a dude who's slowly turning into a zombie.
Yeah. I think I just stole the idea from that. I'm now realizing. Yeah,
probably. Although you don't get extra powers from being a zombie.
Yeah.
Hunter Roach gives $5. There's not much to add this week because every character that pops to mind already has a spin-off. Zelda, Peach, Zero from MMX. Here's $5 anyway.
There are a lot. There's a lot more characters have spin-offs than I was thinking of, especially in big games. I go deeper into other things, but
Do you think every character in video games named Zero gets together and has a convention?
Oh,
Yeah.
so we have Zero from Mega Man.
Mega
We have
Man.
Zero
got,
from Metal Gear. Commander
Yeah,
Zero.
we got Command Major Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure
Do they
there's
have,
some
like-
others that don't spring to mind right now.
Do they have meetings at like Zero's Not So Anonymous?
Zero's
Yeah.
not so anonymous. I like it.
Zero from Borderlands. Thank you, the 14.
Zero from Borderlands.
Eero Lang gives €2 and says €2 for 2 adorable dogs of the team. €1 each.
If I just get a dog and then have an asthma attack on a daily basis, we could have gotten €3.
Does it affect your asthma?
Oh yeah, I'm like deathly allergic to dogs.
Yeah,
I've-
cats
yeah.
affect my asthma as
Well,
well.
just get a dog that doesn't shed.
People have always
Such
said
things
that.
exist.
People have always said that, and I think it's like I'm like allergic to their saliva, their dander.
There are
their
different
skin?
things with cats. I'm allergic to their dandruff, like their
Yeah.
dander.
Yeah.
Ludo's hypoallergenic, so when I come over to the States, Marty, when I come see you, I'll secretly
Ludo in
bring
my
her and
face.
just like chuck her through your window and say, "How is she?"
You
And if
still
you
breathing?
respond-
Nope.
Yeah.
Not,
Nope.
not still
Okay.
breathing. Dying.
I believe in Doo Man gives $2 and says Gyatting glizzy gumbas gulping gooey gaga gummies.
I also believe
Say
in,
that 10 times fast.
I totally believe in Doo Man.
Getting glizzy
That
gumbas gulping gooey gaga gummies.
That was
That
really
hurts
impressive.
me.
That was really impressive.
Fungus Finder gives $2 and says a fire at a sea parks, which is a reference to British comedy series The IT Crowd.
Oh, I thought that was going to
Also
be
a
a
great
Red
show.
Dwarf. I was worried it would be a
No.
Red Dwarf.
No, different British comedy reference there.
Sick.
Holding out for a Father Ted reference for the end of the stream.
You seen Black Books, Yachts?
Yeah.
I love Black
Natch.
Books.
I mean, anyone who says they like British comedy always cites Black Books as a thing they like, in my experience.
It's good.
It's got Dylan Moran and Bill Bailey in it.
What's not
I
done?
know
both
Dylan Moran
very,
is.
who are both very good stand-ups in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Bill Bailey live once in Brisbane.
My best mate's seen him live like 6 times. He loves him.
He's a
Insane.
good live show, is Bill Bailey. He did like 3 encores when I was there.
What
Half
an
of us
absolute hero.
had left the auditorium. We saw him come on the monitors, and we had to sprint back in.
That's a lot of encores.
What a legend. Love him.
Collide 618 gives $2 and says Collide 618 gives $2 and says, "Oh, you
Oh.
cheeky boy, Collide
Oh,
618."
it's happening.
Being an absolute gumba.
And I suppose I should mix it up a bit. $2 comes to us from Alex Armstrong, who proceeds to utter the phrase, "Speaking of Silent Hill 2, gave OG PS2 game a try. I'm lost AF." Of course you are. You're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game about feeling lost and scared and downtrodden in an oppressive, horrific atmosphere of dread.
This map
Jeez.
is very useful though, because every time you open something or try to open something, you get a little mark. So it does a good job.
Yeah.
You'll know what you've tried, what you haven't tried. Try everything.
I've never
You'll get
fully
through.
gone through it. I know a lot about the story because I watch a lot of videos, but when I was young, when I tried to play it over my cousin's house, like it was too much for me.
It is
So I'd love to
easy for
replay
a
it.
new player to get lost in like the starting area with all the streets. Just
It's like an open world. Yeah.
yeah, just go to the mobile home, go inside, find the map, go to Bar Neely's, get the key for the apartment building, and it's pretty plain sailing from there.
I will remember that when I do my next playthrough.
You're absolutely not gonna remember that.
I've forgotten
I
it
think if
already.
you-
I've already forgotten it. There was a bar at some point.
Yes. The apartment building's a bit labyrinthine, but I think if you can just get through the apartment building segment, the game will grab you. You'll be hooked.
Which Silent Hill game has the one late game area where you keep teleporting? You keep like
Yeah.
you enter like a door and you go to somewhere else in the building. Is that Silent Hill 2?
Yeah. Well, that's when you're that's very near the end, so you're all
Yeah.
hooked, and it's just just messing with you at that point.
I remember at that point, I kind of just that was like the one area where I just kind of strong arm my way through, and I'm like, oh, I guess I found the end here. I don't know what I'm actually doing, but I found it out. Great game.
KC Jones gives $10 and says, "What's your thoughts on the Sidekick spin-off genre, where the Sidekicks gets their own non-canon game and the mechanics are completely different? Daxter, Secret Agent, Clank, Last of Us 2, etc." Last of Us 2 is a non-canon. I think that was just a silly on your part, I fear.
The same.
Yes, I think he was being silly.
Being a little cheeky. I like that. That's like when we went through our big list, I feel like you can almost put things in different categories where it's like cheeky little spin-off that pursues other mechanics, or let's fill in the backstory of this character, or this person could just take the mantle and become ostensibly what the first character was.
Cheeky spin-offs, eh?
Cheeky little spin-offs.
Cheeky little spin-off.
I seem... Whenever someone says cheeky, I think of bottoms. Which makes sense, because if you show someone your bottom, you go, "Gosh, that was cheeky of you."
Yes.
And your bottom consists of cheeks.
This is true, yeah.
A couple of them.
I completely understood your thought process the moment you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of the super chat. So what a note to end on. Talking about bottoms, my favorite subject.
You guys are being a couple of cheek holes, am I right? Is that
we're being a couple of cheeky bottoms is what we're being.
Cheek holes.
I hate that worse than asshole. I'm upset. All right.
A cheek hole's just a mouth, isn't it?
Fuck.
Oh my god.
Isn't a butthole just a butt mouth though when you think about it? You guys think about it.
I leave you to contemplate that as we start plugging stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Yahtzee Crowshaw. I do weekly videos on Wednesday called Fully Ramblematic, where I review games.
Can you tell us what you're going to review this week?
Well, this week I'm covering the Dead Rising remaster. Ooh. And speaking of the Dead Rising remaster, we're going to have another video on that subject coming out today. In which, Topical Punch, in which me and Jesse Galena, from the opposite perspectives of never having played Dead Rising and having played quite a bit of Dead Rising, discuss the remastered edition.
Beautiful.
So that'll be this afternoon, I think. I've also got Yahtzee Tries, my Wednesday stream, in which I play indie games for a laugh. And then we do like an edited recut of those streams that goes out Sundays. That'll be this Sunday. And that's about it for me. Remember Adventurers and I every Saturday, where I play Mortimer, who is the coolest character and the best at everything.
Yeah. Legally voted coolest character.
That's my stuff. Jermaine, Marty, plug everything else.
Jermaine, what do you got going on?
Just had an episode of the Dev Heads podcast with a good friend of mine, Feral Pony from Riot Games. It was our longest episode yet because we were just having so much just fun chatting about the industry and what it's like being in AAA and where that's headed. So check that out if you want to see more of that. And I have an episode of Design Delve coming out this Friday, which is going to be me covering my perspective on Astrobot and if it basically just plays itself in a good way. So yeah, if you want to see some more Astrobot stuff, I picked this topic because I've been moving house, as you guys can probably tell. So I wanted something a little bit lighter, and this is what I wanted to do. So deal with it. And
beautiful.
That's me.
Okay,
love it. Later tonight we have Hidden Gems, 6 p.m. Central. The crew's gonna be playing a very cool-looking new indie racing game called Parking Garage Rally. It looks like a PS1 game, but you're doing just sick drifts in parking garages.
Cool.
So the crew will be there for that. Tomorrow we have the Rewind, normal time, 12 p.m. Central. We'll be chatting about a couple interesting new movies, including The Substance, which Darren and I loved, and then Megalopolis. And so our main topic will be sort of big swings throughout the entertainment industry.
Now is The Substance in any way related to The Blob or The Stuff?
No, it is body horror, much like The Blob.
Is The Substance in any way, shape, or form related to Dead by Daylight characters?
As far as I know, no. I don't know all the Dead by Daylight characters, but as far as I know, The Substance.
Oh, give them some time. I'm sure Dead by Daylight will fucking license them.
I would love if they put Demi Moore's fucking Substance up in Dead by Daylight. I would love nothing more than Demi Moore getting in that Dead by Daylight. But yeah, we'll be chatting about that tomorrow, and then probably 2 weeks from now we'll have Jay on to chat about the Rings of Power, which some people have said is the greatest television series of all time. I still haven't watched any of this season, so I feel like I need to watch the entire thing.
You still haven't watched any of this season? Oh, man.
I was waiting for it to end, and then I'll do a big old bingey.
Yeah, that's fair. I won't talk about this now. I'll wait because I've got so much to say.
Got some thoughts. Yeah, that's about it. New backdrop tomorrow as well. All sorts of good stuff for you guys.
All right, well, that's it. No last minute super chats. I was hoping someone would put in a Father Ted reference like I asked. But I guess I'll just, in that which case, I guess I'll just say, drink feck our girls. See you next time.
I bet that was their dad.
So you're a racist now, Father.